They had to, educate him.
You always need education, Negro. Negro, you need education.
Because you're always putting out misinformation.
You're just so stupid. We have to train you on how to be a normal person.
I guess you got to go back into slavery again and us do it all over again to you so you get it this time.
Speaking of slavery, let's talk about Black News Channel might have did some real news.
They brought Yvette Carnell on.
I'm trying to
disappeared off of YouTube.
What? Okay, I think it was New York Times, wasn't it?
What?
Was the first.
It did the article? I think it was in New York Times.
So this is the first news outlet that's brought her on.
Well, no, she was on CNN.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're right.
She did that thing with,
but they showed her, but.
It was like at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They knew nobody won't really going to be.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we got you on. So Yvette Carnell went on Black News Channel to speak about ADOS or
Advocacy Foundation.
ADOS Advocacy Foundation. I guess they had to turn it into
They have to rebrand it.
I don't think it was a rebrand. I think they had to turn it into a.
For her, I do think it's a rebrand.
You think so?
Because she has not been on her YouTube channel for like 3 or 4 months.
I don't think she want to do YouTube no more.
Okay.
I think, and this is my opinion, I think she look at YouTube as, I don't want to be a YouTuber.
Okay.
I don't want to be somebody who's on YouTube talking. So I'm going to actually get away from it.
Well, they have that their ADOS Advocacy Foundation now has a channel, and she's on that channel.
So she's not on her original channel. So I told you, I think she's getting away from.
This is kind of a rebrand.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but
I have no opinion on that whole part, but I am going to listen to what she had to say to the Pan Africanist,
Mr.
Marc Lamont Hill. She had some. He didn't really go. You could tell he didn't want to
poke the bear.
Well, everybody else, he would antagonize. He would constantly try to catch you up. He didn't try to do that with her
because because he couldn't debate what she was gonna say when she started bringing out the whole Pan Africanist thing and how it has not actually done anything and start bringing out examples of how it does. What is Mark gonna say? Mark can't give examples.
Let's see what the man Mark had to speak about with Yvette.
He's finally bringing people on there that can challenge him.
Well, he lost. He didn't challenge Yvette, but he lost to Judge Joe Brown. The infamous
Judge Joe Brown.
Judge Joe Brown got him up out of here.
What kind of plunder we're talking about, what kind of money it takes to repair the damage done, who gets it, and how they get it. So talk to me a little bit about ADOS's policy vision as it pertains to reparations.
Well, ADOS, the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, we are committed to cash payments. And we are committed to cash payments to a specific group of people, right? And those are American descendants of slavery. Now, we have a transformative black agenda that includes all black people. But in terms of reparations, those are the people that built the country and have been systemically, methodically oppressed since then. So you have to have a method not only for cash payments, but for programs to protect that wealth. Because you can give wealth to a group of people and then that money is plundered by white supremacy and super capitalists who would like nothing more than to take it away from us. So we have to have certain protections, but we absolutely have to have cash payments. And this absolutely has to be a federal government initiative in terms of how we do this and how we have outlays and appropriations and things of that nature. It has to happen that way.
Cash payments, how much are we talking?
I like to talk about it as a down payment. I don't like to talk about it because I always say it this way. It takes a lot more time to heal a wound than it takes to inflict a wound. And America has been inflicting a wound for 400 years plus. So it's going to take longer than that to actually heal that wound and close the racial wealth gap, which we like to call the lineage wealth gap. It's going to take longer than that. So I like to call it a down payment. But I think we're talking about at least 20 trillion. That's where we are. Down payment.
$20 trillion. So, and it's an interesting number when you think about what happened during the pandemic, when American capitalism was on the brink, when Trump's presidency was looking shaky, when the heads of multinational corporations were like, what are we going to do? They found $1 trillion real quick for America, right? So the idea of not being able to recover $20 trillion is somewhat less plausible than it was before, because there was time people, you almost sounded like Dr. Evil saying anything with a T in it, right? But now that amount of money doesn't sound crazy anymore to people.
Because it's not crazy.
It's not crazy anymore because these motherfuckers just printing it.
It's a debt. They know that, man. They know that.
They just
time is up.
They just print the money, so money don't really matter. I mean, I remember when even though it don't matter what he say, I remember when DJ Vlad had came out and said that he don't support cash payment because it's impossible.
Who is Jewish?
He's Jewish. He said he don't support cash payments because it's impossible. And then when the government came out with $1 trillion just out of nowhere, he was just like, okay, okay, they might be able to do reparations. Hold up. And obviously, there was no way they were going to talk about ADOS without talking about the backlash they receive
from immigrants, particularly black immigrants.
Well, no, that's the only immigrants. That's the only immigrants you would give a damn about. To be honest with you, you wouldn't care about none of the other ones. So he asked her the question about the backlash that ADOS has received and whether she thinks it's warranted or deserved, or if people have taken what they said out of context, or people have been using the name to disparage immigrant groups, black immigrants groups. So let's see what she had to say on the topic with, I'm about to say boys.
They all the same. Go along, get along, gang.
Is there any room for a conversation, in your estimation, around how ADOS and its sort of commitment to talking about descendants of slavery may alienate people who come from other parts of the continent, may undermine a Pan-African agenda, or may kind of replicate, whether it's through the American flag imagery or through constantly talking about a certain kind of lineage, almost replicate a certain kind of American nationalism?
Well, I think we have to make a sort of delineation, right? There's a difference between nationalism and nativism. We're proud of the country that we built. We're proud of the slaves who built the country. We are absolutely proud of our freedom struggle through Jim Crow, mass incarceration. We're proud that we're still here. So what I would say is we are absolutely have a right to be proud of what we built, right? The same way that a Jamaican American is absolutely proud of their history of coming out of slavery. The same way a Haitian is absolutely proud of Toussaint L'Ouverture. We're proud in the same way, and you have to let us have that. We are a specific ethnic lineage. That's who we are. Now, there have been a lot of diaspora wars, but let me say this. A lot of those wars were not started by us. And a lot of those wars, we were defending ourselves. People call me the granddaughter of a cotton picker, right? People call me all sorts of names because I come from sharecroppers. And the problem that I have with a lot of Pan-Africanists is that they will look at me and say, oh my gosh, you have people behaving in ways that are unproductive. And I want to say you have a lot of people who are behaving in ways that are white supremacists. They are behaving in ways where they co-sign white supremacy. We saw on CNN somebody say something, an anchor said something about America's the greatest country. I could never have done this in another country. Meanwhile, we as ADOS see this, we see what America has done to us. And we see that a lot of people are not very respectful of not only what we have endured, but the pathway where we have opened up to them to come here. If it wasn't for us and our freedom struggle, there would be no black and brown people here. And so we see a lot of disrespect coming our way.
So she answered the question thoroughly. And look, I agree with her on the so-called diaspora wars and how it's not really a diaspora war because it's one-sided to me. From what I see, it's pretty one-sided.
It's pretty one-sided. They've already explained that, ADOS is a group for American descendants of slaves for reparations and other things that need to be done to prepare the black community. And because now the black immigrants, they don't want separation. But they identify themselves as what? Haitian? Nigerian?
They do. They identify themselves, but they should. Their nationality, they're proud of their heritage and lineage.
They know that if there is a distinction, then they feel like I may not be able to get things that I want because I'm no longer connected to them just because we're all black. Because now they're viewed as their own tribe. Now Americans, they have their own tribe now. We can't just go on there and blend in because we're going to be told, well, you're not an American descendant of slavery.
Well, we've seen people say Twitter is the most toxic social media platform. And I would have agreed with that until Clubhouse came. Clubhouse is by far the most toxic and useless social platform out there. I use Twitter. I don't tweet. Rarely. The only thing I tweet when we make videos, I tweet them out sometimes. I use Twitter because you get instant information quickly.
True.
It's instant. Something trend, boom, it's immediately trending on Twitter. It's quick as to get information. So that's why I'm on Twitter. But Clubhouse, all they do is talk shit. Look at this. This was a room in Clubhouse. African Americans, stay in America. Leave Africa alone. I can't tell you. There's people on the timeline that talk about this every day. All these rooms they open up talking about ADOS, African Americans, and it's always the same people in the room. And you go, I don't see the opposite making those rooms.
Oh, telling Africans
to stay out of
America.
I don't see African. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I don't see too many of these rooms of African Americans creating these rooms and talking about other black groups in disparaging ways, especially.
Seems like African Americans just have. I'm not gonna say African Americans. Seems like all these groups just have problems with African Americans. Not even just black. We see Asians got problems with Black Americans.
There was a video we watched.
Hispanics got problems with African Americans. That was on YouTube.
Yeah, there was a video we watched. I can't remember what the name of it was. It was African American versus.
It was on one of those channels where they debate.
I can't remember what other group it was.
Probably like a BuzzFeed channel or something.
Something like that. I can't remember what the other group was.
It was Asians.
It was Asians?
It was the African American. And we went to the comment section.
When you go to the comment section, you saw people from Africa. It should be the next one should be African American Africa. Then the next one, it should be African American Jamaican. Then it should African American Haitian. It should African American Indian. I saw one Native American asking for a debate with African American
who had us in slavery. By the way, just like white people did.
It's like, wait, every group in the damn comments wanted to debate with African Americans,
and I'm like, Native American, African American. What the fuck we do to you? We barely see you. It's barely none of y'all left.
Every now and again.
Every blue moon.
Every now and again.
What the fuck do we do to you?
But the point of it is, you right. All those groups in the comment section wanted to get their gripe out with African Americans. They were just like,
what is the gripe?
What the fuck we do?
We don't even live around y'all. Y'all choose to come and move around us.
Welcome back to Black News.
There's a dude in the comment section the other day because you said that there's a such thing as talking black.
Yeah.
And he said there's no such thing as talking black.
If
you live in the hood, you live in the hood.
And I said, wait, so you're talking about inflections in your voice, lingo, slang, dialect and slang. All that is just hood.
If you just live in a hood. I was like, man, you're a caricature of black people.
Yeah, he did. It was, But, and you know what comes to this, back to the main topic, reparations. They always say, oh, you don't need it. Get over it. Da-da-da-da. There's a story that just came out. 100-year-old alleged former Nazi will stand trial on charges of involvement of the deaths of nearly 3,500 Jews.
But they can't go back and find what?
I forgot to put the picture up. Remember those pictures we always see of those black people
getting hung
in trees, and you see all hundreds of white people standing around them.
They
faces right there,
pants down,
chopped up, but nobody can find who those people is in that picture. Who are an accessory to a murder.
They have that's where they get the term picnic from, pick a nigger.
And it's like, how the hell can you find this 100-year-old man, but you can't find those 100-year-old people? You can't find those 80-year-olds, 60-year-olds, some of them 60, 70, a lot of those were kids. You can't find none of them. Now, I'm not saying you should blame the kids.
Oh, you definitely should blame the kids.
In this society, you're not allowed to. You know how they'll get mad at that.
The children pay for the fathers of they pay for their
crime of their fathers.
Sin. Sorry.
But none of those people can be found. Even the woman, the woman who got Emmett Till killed, she was still alive the whole time.
She just said, it was all a lie.
But
we're not going to reveal where she is.
They protected her location.
She should have been locked up. She reported a false crime that
they got somebody killed.
They got somebody killed. She'd have been locked up.
They can go find 100-year-old Nazis, former Nazis, as they called him, a former Nazi.
But black people, that was just so long ago.
Get over it.
There's no way we'll ever be able to locate those people. Duh.
They hunting these people down. But you know what? I don't blame them. We should be doing that. We should be doing it. We should be doing it ourselves, hunting them down. That woman who did that to Emmett Till, she should have been hunt down. People should have got up with that journalist and made him give up the information. Just like Zimmerman should have dealt with him.
Can create your own Guantanamo Bay, I guess.
That's what you're supposed to do. They were given a country and they're completely taking advantage of it. So it's just as much as our fault. They would have found a dude who's 100 years old. But you shouldn't expect reparations. And I try to find some arguments. I wouldn't try to look up arguments against reparations.
You couldn't find any?
And the main of the arguments was, you weren't enslaved, they weren't slave owners. Why should they be forced to pay for it through taxes? The same old stuff. It wasn't real social argument. It wasn't real argument.
Because you, sir, have benefited off of what your forefathers did, so you should have to pay for it.
I found this article on The Atlantic, and it said the impossibility of reparations. The first thing he said was, the program will expand to additional groups. Within only a few months of implementation of the Philadelphia Plan, preference of various kinds were extended to women, Hispanics, and other groups. With any program of reparations, likewise, other claimants will come forward. If African Americans are due payment for slavery and subjugation, what about Native Americans who lost a whole continent? What about Mexican Americans who were deprived by the Mexican American War of the right to migrate into half a former country? They lost a war though. Japanese Americans interned during the World War II. Chinese Americans, the victims of coolie labor in the Oriental Exclusion Acts. Members of these groups may concede that they were not maltreated in the same way as African Americans and may not be entitled to the exact or the same consideration. But if Black Americans are entitled to almost $1 trillion in compensation, close to just a figure of $34 billion a year for a decade or two, surely these other maltreated groups must be entitled to at least something?
No, because Native Americans already get reparations. I'm sorry, they own land. They have their own reservations, and secondly, they're not even the fucking real Native Americans of the country. They migrated here.
The part that don't make sense is these were wars,
and Native Americans also had slavery.
There was a war. The Chinese, that was in a time of war, internment camps. That was war. Now, right or wrong, it was a war going on. Niggas ain't. There wasn't no war.
You know what? Listen. I can't.
Now hold on. The question of who qualifies will become even more contested and embittered. Under today's racial preference rules, a nephew of King of Spain, of the daughter of chairman of the biggest bank in Chile, would both qualify for Hispanic preference if they reside in the United States. Harvard can and does meet its African American diversity requirements with the children of recent African immigrants whose families never experienced slavery or segregation in this country. I agree with that. That's why you have ADOS. That's the point of ADOS. So that a person who wasn't here can't benefit from it. So that's solved. Right?
Yes, it's definitely solved.
Side effects will be larger and unexpected. Affirmative action characteristics some part of the American economy. Affirmative action characterizes some parts of the American economy more strongly than others, and in particular, the public sector more than the private sector. This prevailing fact has shaped the growth of the Black middle class. Black Americans are 30% more likely than non-blacks to work in the public sector, where they earn higher wages relative to white Americans than they do in private employment. This strategy brought security to many Black families in the years of 1970 to 2008. But the strategy came as a cost. First, the strategy tethered Black economic advancement to the growth of government. That growth has become even more fiercely contested in recent years. Since 2008, it has abruptly halted and reversed. Second, the strategy deterred talented people away from the higher risks and rewards of the private sector, and especially from entrepreneurship. Black Americans are Black Americans are less than half as likely as white to own their own business. A reparations plan is likely to prove even more distorting. the legitimacy of the project will rapidly fade.
So what I got out of this article is we don't want y'all to elevate, because if y'all elevate, it destroys the whole economy and the whole way that America functions by us giving you something. We have to keep y'all at the bottom. We can't let y'all rise. Somebody has to be at the bottom.
It always has to be that way.